We are back for another Masks of Nyarlathotep. This is officially England number 6. We will continue with Shelley's little side adventure where we last left Shelley. You were in the manufactory speaking with Gavigan, and you had some very interesting insights into the blueprints and various pieces of metal that they have been working on and shaping and trying to decipher. So let's pick up back there. So as I recall, it's probably about 4 o'clock at this point. And you have gathered that the shop closes down around 5.
Okay, and we ended with Shelley kind of reeling from Gavigan's statement that the design for this item came for
thousands of years ago. Yes. So, and he definitely looks at you kind of expectantly, like he wants to see how that blows your mind. Like he knows that and whether you take him seriously or not.
Right. She just blinks at him for a second and then is kind of a hesitant smile and a chuckle. You're pulling my leg, right?
I assure you I am not. I understand that's a lot to take in, Shelley. There's a lot you don't understand, and I'm eager to show it all to you. But a bit at a time. Trust me, that is the best way.
Well, she looks down at it. I suppose I'll have to take you at your word.
He says,
I certainly have never seen anything like that.
I assure you, it won't be for much longer. You'll have to take my word for it. You shall see for yourself.
Well, she says, how much longer do we have to spend here?
Well, if you're interested, I'm sure that Mr. Marshall would be willing to work late with you. If you think you're hot on the trail of something.
Shelley looks over at Marshall. Well, I'm game if he is.
I'll go and have a word with him. And he steps over and speaks privately with Mr. Marshall. The two of them have a brief conversation. You see Marshall kind of look over in your direction and sort of nod. And Gavigan comes back and says, well, it appears you've made quite the impression on our Mr. Marshall. He is quite taken with your capabilities and very much looks forward to extending your work. In fact, he's asked if I might spare you for a few days. Does that sound interesting to you?
Well, there's very little I like better than immersing myself in a project, and this is quite possibly the most fascinating one I've encountered. But she kind of looks up at him under her eyelashes. I'll miss being at the house, of course, but if you can spare me.
He reaches out and takes your hand tenderly and says, my dear, do not worry, there will be time enough for the two of us.
Yes, I think there will be plenty of time.
He says, well, a lot of that depends on how well we do here. He says, what the work here is very important, Shelley. I cannot impress upon you enough. It is of vital importance. Your help will not be forgotten. And you will not go unrewarded. I shall see to that.
Honestly, Edward, knowledge to me is its own reward. And so I hope that's what you mean.
It is. It is. There is no greater reward than to understand the mysteries of this strange world we have been born into.
We are so strangely alike, she says, smiling.
I'm sure that is just, yeah. Yes, he seems very pleased with that. You can tell you've said exactly the right thing. And he again kind of takes your hand and says, well, then I shall reluctantly hand you over to Mr. Marshall. He says, he says, I've a couple of errands to take care of. We shall return to pick you up and we'll go back to the cottage.
Oh, there's a cottage here in town?
Indeed. We'll be staying there for the night.
I wonder if there's somewhere here I could maybe pick up a few things. I'm afraid I'm not really packed for an overnight.
Oh, he says, write out a list, and I'll have Thomas go and fetch them for you.
Oh, very well. I'll do so. Thank you.
Gavigan goes back and has a word with Marshall, and you can see Marshall's pleased with the outcome.
Shelley will start scribbling down a list. She hesitates for a minute, mentioning like undergarments and stuff, but then she pictures how uncomfortable he'll be filling that order.
Of course.
And so she adds like several items like that.
Oh, you're so
with
evil,
details
Shelley.
like silk if possible, satin if not.
Well, maybe you and Gavigan are meant to be together after all.
A spare dress and a night dress. Some things that are practical. I mean, they're all pretty practical, but...
Right. Also a few things thrown in to embarrass him.
Exactly.
Of course. All right. You can see Kinnery standing nearby. Gavigan and Marshall seem to be having a conversation. Kinnery's kind of looking curiously at what he can't see what you're writing, and he clearly hasn't been told yet, but he's got his eye on you. He's had his eye on you the whole time you've been here, you think. Clearly untrusting.
Right. Shelley is going to try to slip I think she's going to take a piece of paper, start writing some things on it, and then kind of look at it and then wad it up and look at it like, oh, that's a mistake, and then kind of toss it to the side a little bit.
Yep.
She's hoping to pick that paper up later, maybe. And then she's going to write the list, and she'll tear it out and fold it up and walk over to Kinnery.
Okay. He stiffens a little when you approach. Says nothing, but looks at you expectantly.
Mr. Kinnery, I'm afraid we haven't had much of a chance to renew our acquaintance. But I hope you're having a good day.
His frown says it all.
She holds out the folded paper and hands it, holds it out to him.
He puts on a curious look on his face of surprise and puts his hand out and he says, "And what is this?"
Mr. Gavigan wants me to stay here in town for a few days and assist with the project. I'm afraid that when I left London, I didn't pack much, and I was wondering, well, he thought that you could pick me up some things while we were here in town. And she says that's what this is, just a list of a few small necessaries.
You can see him taking a very controlled breath. And he opens it somewhat with some trepidation, you can see. And as he reads through the list, you can see his face coloring and perhaps imagine the steam coming out of his ears as he gets further down the list. And at a couple of points you hear him and he purses
you don't
his
need an
lips.
explanation, do you? You know what all those items are, she says.
He just ignores your comment rather pointedly and kind of brushes past you over to Gavigan. And he says, "Mr. Gavigan, might I have a word with you, please?" And Gavigan says, "What is it, Thomas?" And he says, "A private word, if you please." And Edward says, "Make it quick, Thomas." And they go off into the office. There's a little private office there, and you can see they have a conversation, and you see Gavigan trying to hide a smirk as Kinnery kind of rants a little bit. And the end of it is that Kinnery kind of storms out, and grabs. He starts to grab Ronan, and then thinks better of it, and then goes off by himself and leaves the building. And Gavigan comes out, and he says, "Oh dear."
Shelley
Yes.
gives him like a conspiratorial smile.
And he chuckles, and he says, I think we're going to make a fine team, you and I."
She laughs and says, "Well, I tried to be as practical as I could with the list, but I thought there might be some things that I could show you later."
Oh. Oh dear. Well, I shall have to tell Thomas. He says, he glances over at Marshall, and you can see Marshall's a little impatient to kind of get you to himself. And Gavigan says, "Well, there will be perhaps time for that later tonight, though we'll have to see." He says, "In any case, as I said, we have time." And he says, I turn you over to the good care of Mr. Marshall here." And he's kind of walking over with you to Marshall.
Okay. And she'll say, I forgot to ask. Where did Arthur go?
"Oh, I sent him back to London. He was losing his objectivity, shall we say."
Oh, yes. I tried to be as friendly as I could, but
I'm sure you
I
did.
suppose.
As friendly as you are to Kinnery, I suppose. And again, he kind of grins mischievously.
Well, I did try at first. I really did.
I'm sure you did. He's an irritable little fellow. Very useful, though. He says, "Well, he actually slips maybe. He says, well, Frank, I hope that you can make good use of our friend here. And he says, I shall return perhaps 3 hours from now, perhaps 4. In any case, keep her here and use this brilliant mind as well as you can while I'm gone. I shall return for her later. And he says, of course. He says, Shelley, would you, do you mind if I call you Shelley?
Of course not. We'll be working quite closely together, so...
Yes, and you can call me Frank, of course.
Excellent.
And he takes you over. You can see Gavigan kind of gathers up his driver and Isa and Ronan, and the 4 of them head out of the building.
So we're left with the 3 engineers and the security person?
You notice there's actually... You've noticed there's at least 2 security people inside here that look similar to that. They're also kind of keeping an eye on you. Clearly the engineers are quite used to them being around. They don't really converse with these men, but you pick up pretty quickly that it's not like these security people have just been brought in because you're here. It's obvious that this is a routine for everyone.
So, is there anything unusual about them, or they just look like, regular guys who are making sure that nothing
I will... How about if you try... I think psychology is unfortunately going to be the closest thing. You're usually not... That's not your strongest...
Yeah.
I'll also let you just make an intelligence roll, just in general, just to get an idea. Oh my, okay. You do, over the course of the afternoon and evening, you put together that the security people clearly answered to Gavigan. You saw Gavigan having private words with one of them earlier, and there's a sort of familiarity there, like it's his man, and the engineers certainly treat security as if they are external. They're just sort of an appendage that happen to be around all the time. There's very little interaction with them. So it's not like they're on particularly friendly terms or anything. The engineers, in fact, are very dedicated to their work. They don't seem... And you get the sense that while they don't have any kind of relationship with the security guards, they're respectful of them in an odd way. Like you might, in your mind, seeing Ronan and Isa and some of Gavigan's other people, they kind of almost look like gangsters. And these security guards look a little more proper. And you can see there's a kind of deference on the part of the engineers to the security people.
Okay. Noted. Do they actually, listen in on conversations that the engineers that we're having, or are they just kind of sitting back and observing?
It's pretty clear to you their primary concern is making sure that nobody is sneaking in, spying on the place, looking around. Their concern is external threats. they're not really, they don't seem to be too terribly concerned with the engineers themselves.
Okay.
You know, they kind of watch them lazily a little bit, but they're, and they do change. You can tell there's at least 3 of them over time as they kind of switch off, and one of them will go outside to patrol around the grounds while the other 2 stay inside.
But they don't seem to be eavesdropping or anything.
Not really, no. It's, yeah, you definitely don't get the impression that they are monitoring the engineers. That's not their function. And they don't seem to take any particular interest in what the engineers are doing.
Okay. Well, Shelley will, walk back over to the blueprints and, ask some more pertinent questions and do some more things and
Yep.
start to make some chit-chat in between.
Mm-hmm. With Marshall.
With Marshall, yeah.
Yep.
What does Vern do?
Vern is the senior engineer. He actually, Marshall introduces the 2 of you. Vern is very skeptical at first, but it's obvious to you pretty quickly on that Vern has a much better grasp of physics than Marshall does. He's really probably, in your estimation, the true brains behind what's going on here. But clearly he answers to Marshall.
Okay. Then she'll, try to make a good impression. She'll point out some of the things that she had realized about the project and, ask questions that show that she understands where the problems are and see if he can clarify anything because the blueprint's somewhat vague and...
Yes. So try a charm roll with, I'll give you 2 bonus dice because of your amazing insights that you have garnered. That is bound to impress. Wow. He is clearly impressed with your contributions, and it takes very little time for him to get past his initial suspicions of you. He does say to Marshall, "Are we sure she's not a foreign spy?" at first. And Marshall says, No, she's been fully vetted, Vern. She's fine." And that seems to kind of relax him a little. And he says, I've not heard much about women on projects like these, he says, but clearly you know your stuff.
Well, I was a bit of a novelty back in the States as well, so I'm quite used to that. But hopefully we can all get past those particular differences and get
Vern
somewhere.
again glances at Marshall, and she says, "She's from the United States." And Marshall says, "Yes, she's here on special invitation, Vern. Don't worry about it. It's all been cleared." And Vern says, "As you say." So you notice there's he clearly is impressed with your knowledge, but for the rest of that evening, you can tell he just seems a little uncomfortable that you're there. Just genuinely worried that about your motives and your intentions. You can just tell by the questions he asks and the way he behaves around you, but that doesn't stop him from making use of your what you can point out. Let me show you a little floor plan of the area because you get a sense of how it is all laid out. Kinnery would actually be gone this time. So you can see this is sort of the how it goes. So there's the main shop floor, the office is back here. There's a break room that isn't really being used, but you're welcome. They say you can go and wash up there if you need to. There's a water closet outside. If you scroll down, you can see sort of the larger, a larger scale.
Oh yeah.
With the workshop, and there's the water closets out there. Some wooden shed you're not sure what it is, and some other big shed on the other side, and a 10-foot brick wall surrounding in a security guard that kind of patrols around. The one curious thing you notice as you're walking around is there is this massive walk-in safe, like a bank vault, right here on the floor.
Where? I'm sorry, I was looking at
number 7 up here.
Okay, got it. Where it says safe. That makes sense.
Yep, it is closed, but you can see it is a very sophisticated mechanism. This is not some old, some old inexpensive kind of bargain safe. This is kind of top of the line. Someone spared no expense on it.
Well, she'll pay special attention if anyone ever goes and opens it.
Nobody does, although at one point Marshall and Vern are getting very frustrated that you, and so are you, in fact, if you're actually, I assume you actually kind of get into it a little bit.
Yeah, she
right?
can't help it.
Yeah. There has to be more, other things. And Vern kind of looks at Marshall for a moment, and Marshall just kind of nods, and Marshall goes over to the safe and he pulls out a key from inside his vest and opens the safe.
Vern did?
Marshall did.
Oh, Marshall did, okay.
Marshall goes over. It's a pretty big key, and you have to turn it, and then there's like a wheel unlocking mechanism you have to turn at once the key has been turned, and he kind of does that and opens the vault and steps inside. And he's in there for about 5 minutes.
I mean, since he's in there so long, Shelley doesn't think it would be odd for her to kind of walk over and say, "What are you getting out of there?"
Vern's attention was kind of taken up. An engineer was asking him a question, and that's kind of, I would assume, when you would take the opportunity to walk over. So you walk over. Make a spot hidden. I'll give you 2 bonus dice on this.
Oh man. So she just goes over there and pulls out her binoculars.
Yeah. You manage. Nobody seems to notice you looking in there for almost the space of like a whole minute. And the security guy is where so his vision is cut off. He doesn't even see you looking in there. And Vern is completely taken up with a question from an engineer, so he's not paying attention. Marshall is in there. He's kind of rooting around in there. You can see he's trying to gather up blueprints. Clearly there are tons of blueprints that have been stored in here, and you would imagine that 4 minutes ago these were very neatly arranged on some shelves, and now they're kind of disarray as he goes kind of tearing through a bunch of them looking for stuff. You see on the floor of the safe and on shelves there are several completed pieces of metal or in various states of completion. And you see a crate that has kind of been packed up, and and you can read that with your critical success. You can actually read the shipping label on the crate. So I will show that to you.
Awesome. All right, that's a win.
And you can see Marshall. You can tell Marshall's just about got what he wants, and he's just about to finish gathering up, and you just sense he's preparing to turn around and come back out of the safe.
Well, she'll kind of start forward like she was just approaching and not just standing there.
Mm-hmm.
And say, Marshall, do you need a hand with anything?
He says, you're really not supposed to see in here. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. All I see is rather a big mess. All right.
And you hear Vern kind of say, what are you doing over there? That's not for you. And he kind of comes sort of rushing across the floor. And Marshall comes out and he says, take it easy, Vern. She didn't see anything important. And he just kind of closes the vault behind him and wheels it closed. Or spins it closed, rather. And he says, I think I've found a few relevant blueprints that should help us here. And he's all just kind of taken with this. He's in a passionate kind of, I found it, let's go kind of thing. He goes over and starts laying them out over there, clearly expecting you to follow eagerly behind him.
Oh, she does.
And Vern just kind of, you kind of leave Vern standing there, kind of doing what his little toe, like he's kind of rubbing his beard and kind of looking back between you and the safe, and just kind of, he's just not happy with that. And he kind of comes back. He's a little less enthusiastic after that, but he doesn't really say anything. And so Marshall goes over the blueprints with you again, and I'm still going to carry that engineering roll forward. I'd like you to also make a, since you have physics, I'd like you to make some physics check, and a chemistry check, and a mechanical repair check. Let's see what you can discern here. Okay. Very good. Yeah, the chemistry is a little... And the chemistry also, it is the least obvious. These are mechanical and engineering drawings. Clearly there are some indications that there probably should be some gases or liquids in places, and it's not even clear what they are. So those are difficult for you to figure out, certainly at this point, what those might be, what is needed. But wow, you did well on your physics and very well on your mechanical repair roll. So seeing more of these blueprints, it's clear, as I said kind of before, all of these blueprints were made by somebody else somewhere. And the does it say A? Yeah, they're all signed AP. If you look at the device schematics, yeah, they're all signed with that AP. And they all are, I mean, they're all similar, like, and some of them, you don't really see it on the one there, some of them have these really strange cryptic symbols, like drawn, almost scribbled along the edges. And you're really not sure what they are. Like, they're clearly not scientific notations of any kind. They're just weird symbols.
Yeah. So at one moment when she's kind of hitting a block on the chemistry, although she's making progress in other areas, she turns to Frank in a little bit of frustration and says, "Can't we get the author of these blueprints in here to explain some things? This AP."
He says, I'm afraid that's quite impossible.
Oh, is he out of the country?
Make a fast talk check for me. Let's see if you can take advantage of the momentum of the moment. No, not really. It's not really your strong point. He says, I'm sure Mr. Gavigan could tell you about that. He says, quite frankly, I've never met the man myself.
Oh, all right. Just help. It feels like we're working backward.
Vern says, you certainly do ask a lot of questions.
Well, naturally. She points to the blueprint. We're working backwards rather than from the details up. It seems a little silly. I was hoping that...
Yes, Frank takes your side. He intervenes right now, and he says, Vern, don't be obtuse. He says, of course she's asking questions. She's already done more work for us in one night than we've been able to figure out on our own in 2 months. And he says, don't... He says,
Shelley will
"Please."
just try to look demure at that, but...
He says, please continue. And this is starting, some of this is starting to come together. Your suspicion that it might be a rocket of some kind is absolutely confirmed by this point with all these things. It's pretty clear that, as I think I mentioned this, these blueprints are made from existing objects. And in fact, you saw in the safe some very obviously old, not recently manufactured metal objects that you start to recognize in parts of the blueprints.
Ah, okay.
So you start to piece together. They're probably getting blueprints as well as original metal pieces, and they're trying to not, in some cases, replicate them in other places. You know, they look like they might be damaged, and they're trying to figure out what it was supposed to be like. So they're doing a little bit of puzzle solving with these things. But your judgment from the blueprints and the notations on one of the ones that, on many of the ones that clearly are marked, you know, that these are completed, they are very far along in this project, whatever this is for. You're not really sure exactly how or why, but it becomes clear to you two things. One is that this rocket is intended to reach a certain altitude and explode. You're not exactly sure what its payload is, but there's clearly some device that is intended to respond to altitude and trigger a sequence that will detonate a chamber. The other thing is that your suspicions, and largely because of all your successful rolls, you are beginning to actually believe that there is no current scientific mind that could have conceived of these things. These are not current. These are far beyond current scientific discovery. And because of that, I need you to make a sanity check. Not because it's going to make you go crazy, but because it's may start to erode at your certainty that the things you've been told are not true, and that in fact history and scientific progress as you know it is accurate. Hello? Did I lose you? Slip, I think I lost you. Okay.
Just call me Scully.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to interpret that result as meaning, feel free to disagree. You may be believing there must be a genius out there like Tesla that is way beyond his time.
Yeah.
Or her time.
She has maybe got this private theory that this AP, the government's got him in hiding somewhere, that he's some genius like Tesla, that they've been secreted in the way.
Yes. Yep. That makes sense. So, is there anything else you...
Yeah, she would have excused herself, during the evening a couple times to use the water closet, and during that time she wants to see if she can hear the town outside. She wants to maybe get a peek at the shed because it's close to the water closet. Probably is not going to go snooping inside the big shed with a guard walking around, but she may take an opportunity just to stretch her legs. She may ask Frank to walk with her at some point just to make it seem less suspicious.
Yes. Regardless of whether Frank goes with you or not, it's quite obvious to you that whichever security person is in the workshop at the time follows you out of the building. He's not even trying to be discreet. He just he doesn't say anything. He doesn't even really directly look at you particularly, but his presence is very well known, and he's never more than maybe 10 yards away from you as you walk and he waits outside for you. Not oppressively close. He gives you your space while you're in there. He waits outside, obviously, and he's not like standing right at the doorway, but when you come out, he's there. And actually, when you come out, he just kind of tips his hat to you for a moment, but doesn't say anything, and then follows you back in.
She'll, wish him good evening. Has she ever heard one of them speak?
No.
She'll ask him if he has a cigarette.
He says, "Afraid I don't smoke."
Ah.
He just kind of smiles ruefully.
I don't normally either. It's just when I get excited, sometimes it helps calm me down a bit. That's all right. Thank you anyway.
His face was utterly impassive the entire time that you spoke to him after that. He just watches and follows along, and then resumes his position.
She wanted to hear if he had a British accent. Apparently he did. Well, so she wasn't really able to get a peek at anything other than there is a shed.
You can be sure. You get the impression this is an old industrial area. There are other factories. You see multiple chimney, smokestacks in a couple of directions. So you get the sense you are probably in a highly industrial section of wherever you are.
Okay. And does she hear people outside?
Not so much. I'd say she probably hears a couple distant truck engines, but she doesn't hear a lot of. She doesn't really hear conversation or people.
Traffic other than trucks in the distance?
If she's out there for a little bit, yes, she could hear, kind of in a southerly direction. So, down this way, she would hear maybe a car or two drive by. So you're not. It's obvious you're not like out in the middle of some dead, you know, ruined town or something. It's clearly active. There are clearly people here in active businesses, or active, industrial places. But you don't get the sense that you're in a residential or even commercial area.
Okay. She'll go back in and at some point she'll go to the break room, see if there's anything there that looks useful that she wants to steal.
There's very possibly something there. There's definitely a knife in there. An actual knife.
Well, better than nothing at all. She'll put that in her purse. And is the office door open or shut?
It's locked.
Well, she'll just spend the rest of the day trying to help understand, trying to kind of befriend Marshall and allay any of Vern's suspicions, although that may be, something that takes time.
Right. Yep. The engineers have all gone home long after, long before, rather, you and Vern and Marshall. And you can see that when they leave, there's a change in shift of the guards about an hour or two after they leave. A whole new, but this time you get the sense there's fewer of them. You see 2 of them, but that's about it. And they do have words with one another, and you can kind of tell whoever's sort of in charge out of the bunch of you can see there's 4 of them actually total, because they all kind of come in and confer with one another, and when the 2 new guys come in, one of the security guards has some words with him, and you can see he's clearly kind of pointing you out and giving instructions. And they seem to be surprised to see that there are people working here still, but they take that in stride.
As it's getting late, Shelley will look at Frank and say, it's so late. I'm probably keeping you from your family. We can quit any time you like.
He says, well, when Mr. Gavigan returns. And actually, Gavigan does. It's going to be a little while yet. So, yeah, he says when Gavigan returns, but there's still plenty of work to do. And he says, I've got plenty of energy, and so do you, Vern, I assume. He says, of course.
Okay, well, then she will continue on and continue trying to understand these things.
Yeah.
She'll take a look at the things that the actual engineers, the mechanical components that they had reconstructed, and see if they look correct to her, if she thinks any adjustments need to be made.
Okay. Gavigan he finally comes around 10 o'clock. And he says, "Well, look at you three. What a picture you make. Hard at work." And Marshall turns to him and he's kind of beaming. And he says, "Yes, we've made quite a bit of progress thanks to Ms. Franken here."
Shelley, please. Yes, it's so exciting. Although I must be a mess, I always tend to somehow get grease all over me whenever I'm in a shop.
He says, "Oh, never mind that." He actually comes over and he just kind of plants a little kiss on your cheek. And he says, "You must be exhausted."
Well, I suppose the excitement's been sustaining me all day, but now that you mention it, I think I'm starting to feel it now. Oh, goodness, we worked straight through dinner. I
Yes,
think
yes. He says, "Beatrix left you something. She retired, of course, for the night. But there's still some food for you when we get home." He says, "Marshall, I shall see you tomorrow morning briefly to drop Miss Franken off." He says, I look forward to hearing good things." And he says, "Come, let's go." And the two of them just say, "Good night, Mr. Gavigan."
Good night, Mr. Verne and Frank. And then she'll even give the security officer a wave, although the new ones she probably hasn't even really spoken to.
He doesn't wave. He kind of gives you a polite acknowledgement just by kind of dipping his head a little bit, but that's about it. And outside, the limousine is waiting. Magnus is driving. Isa and Ronan are in the car. And Gavigan helps you in.
Okay, she climbs in and sits down.
Between Isa and Gavigan, unfortunately.
I suppose.
Yeah.
And on their original way in, she had to cover her eyes, right? Like she had to put her head. All right, to sort of hoping that he'll not ask her to do that again, she kind of sits back in the seat and closes her eyes for a moment, leans her head against his shoulder, and she just kind of says, how far are we going?"
It's not far, my dear, not far at all.
"I'll just rest my eyes here, if you don't mind."
Not at all, not at all. And you drive.
She's going to try to peek.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Make a navigate check for me then. Yeah, you can't really tell quite what direction you're traveling in. But clearly you are heading into town. You cannot possibly have driven through town, whatever this town is. You can't possibly have driven through earlier, because you remember just like very rural almost feel. So you must be leaving in a different direction.
So she gets the impression that maybe this place is located on the edge of a town or on the fringe.
Yes, correct. Yeah, so you're heading in towards the commercial and residential area. And it's certainly not some giant town or city, but it's sizable. There's a good number of people here. It's a thriving place. And your guess, judging from the industry, this must be an old industry town. And he takes you not all the way into town, and they pull into a cottage. there's rows of cottages along here, so you're not quite, in the densely populated area just yet. And it kind of looks like this. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Yeah, there's Ronan and Isa. So they all get out of the car and start to head inside.
Are there any vehicles parked at neighboring? Well, it looks like it. There's vehicles parked at neighboring cottage.
Well, the thing to your right is the second floor of this.
Oh,
cottage.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Not really. No, the cars are not. And it doesn't surprise you. There's not many people with automobiles in England yet.
Okay, how about since it's late, lights on, or any sign that neighboring homes are occupied?
Not a lot. You do see a little bit of light here and there. There might be, a small handful of people up along this entire little strip of road. But most people are probably in bed by now. And everyone kind of migrates inside unless you're going to try something.
Yeah, she's not really a knife fighter, so that's kind of the last resort.
All right, so everybody goes in. When you get in, you see Kinnery come out, and he says,
Wait, you know what?
Hmm.
Could she have left her door ajar as she gotten out, or attempted to leave the automobile door?
Yeah,
slightly?
sure. Make a sleight of hand check with I'll give you a bonus die on that. Yes, you do. You leave it slightly ajar. They don't seem to notice. They all seem kind of tired to you. So yeah, they're not noticing. You go inside. Kinnery comes out. You can see he's all kind of in a fluster. And he says, "You're finally back, sir." And he gives you sort of an irritated glance, but not for very long. He said, "I would have some words with you, sir, if you can spare them. It's a matter of some urgency." And he says, "Don't be rude, Kinnery. I'm sure it can wait. Miss Shelley, Miss Franken hasn't eaten yet, and I'll be wanting to put her to bed. After that, you can bore me all you want." And he says, "It really is rather urgent, sir." He says, "You heard me, Kinnery." And Kinnery just kind of defeated sort of stomps off. But beforehand, he gives you the most irritated glare he's ever given you. Like, you can see he's just, you have disrupted whatever whatever rhythm or influence he has had with Gavigan. This is clearly not the way he is used to things being handled.
Right.
So he just kind of stomps off and goes into this room and closes the door. And he says, "Magnus, would you be so kind as to fetch Miss Franken some food?" And he says, let's take a seat in the dining room."
Shelley will follow him and say, really, the last thing I want is to get in the way of your work. If there's something you need to attend to.
He says,
she just kind of looks at Kinnery's direct.
He says, "Don't worry about him. He's always been a dramatic one." He says, "I'm sure whatever it is can wait." He says, "I did want to say, however, that I we'll be leaving for London tomorrow morning. We'll drop you off at the manufactory, but after that I have business to take care of. I've made some decisions, and I suspect that whatever Kinry has to say has to do with matters back home. He says, I trust you'll be content here for the time being.
Well, I will be doing what I love to do the best, but, and I understand that you have to leave, but I look forward to when you can return.
I appreciate your understanding, my dear. He says, I know there's so much that you don't yet understand, but I promise you things will begin to make sense to you over time, he says. But as I told you before, it is best if you're exposed to the truth slowly. Many people cannot handle these things. I am no doubt that you are strong of mind and can handle them, but still. And there's much for you to do in the meantime. He says, but again, I assure you, all will be made clear, and you will join me. Side by side, we will usher in a new age. And he kind of folds his hand, puts his chin on them, and he, as he says, you can see he's kind of looking off in the distance, thinking as he says that.
Shelley gives him a minute, takes a couple of bites of her food. Yes, it's all a bit like a puzzle box to me, unlocking a little bit at a time. I asked Frank if we could get the author of those blueprints in to explain some things, and he said that he wasn't available.
No, I'm afraid that's quite impossible. A shame, really. He's a great man.
Oh, no doubt. I am quite in awe of his work. I suppose he must be working on some other project then. Well, that's all right. Well,
he says you could say he's our man on the ground. Much of this is due to his genius and insight, not to mention the gifts he's been given. He says, and Magnus has brought you some food. It's really just a casserole, sort of kept a little warm.
She'll eat it, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not really tasting much of it.
It's not very good. It's not much taste. But it's mostly hearty.
Okay, she'll, just finish as quickly as she can, or just push away what she can't eat after she's done, and I suppose I am feeling quite tired.
I quite understand. Here, let me put you to bed. And you can see his men kind of standing there, and he just sort of leads you up the steps. I assume you'll follow.
Yeah.
Yep, he takes you up to the master bedroom up here, up these steps, and then into the bedroom. Closes the door, and he says, let me help you with those. And he makes to undress you.
She's just kind of in robot mode. She doesn't.
Yeah, it's not really in any kind of sexual way. He's just
right. Is there helpful. A wash basin in the room?
There is, and you can see that Kinry has helpfully laid out all of the items that you requested.
Okay, well, she'll, you know, wash her hands up to the forearms and wash her face and stuff as well.
Right. He seems distracted. He's definitely thinking of something else anyway. Not that he doesn't occasionally, admire you, but he's really thinking about something else mostly.
Well, she'll, take advantage of his being distracted and kind of slip into a nightgown as fast as she can and
Yeah.
slip into the bed and pull the covers up.
Oh yeah, and he helps kind of tuck you in. And he kisses you on the forehead. And he looks at you rather seriously and he says, I feel deeply in my soul, Shelley, that this is meant to be. That you and I have been brought together for a reason. And that great things will come of this. He says, do not betray my trust, I beg of you.
Shelley reaches up with one hand and kind of puts it on his cheek and says, I can honestly say I've never felt this way about anyone before.
Well, of course, he takes it the way you intend him to take it. And, yes, he just kind of smiles at you for a moment, and then he says, I'll wake you when it's time in the morning, my dear. And he says, I'll join you shortly. He says, now I must find out what all this business is that Kinnery is going on about. And he goes and leaves the room. You can hear him kind of tromp downstairs.
All right. Eavesdropping time. Is there any place that she can eavesdrop from? Or is it too far from where they're speaking?
From the bedroom? Maybe the fireplace.
Right.
The chimney
Okay.
does go up, and they do meet in the room down below. So, yes, if you listened at the fireplace, you could almost certainly hear their conversation. They're obviously not thinking, oh, you might be listening at the fireplace, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, she is.
Okay, I'm not even going to make you make a listen roll. I mean, it's directly down below you with a big open fireplace, and there's no fire going. It's they haven't bothered to light a fire. So you hear Gavigan say, well, Kinnery, you've been pestering me. What do you want? And Kinnery says, well, there are several matters of great urgency. And he says, go on. He says, we've had reports of an incident at Shafiq's. Apparently the Russian broke in to their house. And Mr. Pepin. He says, oh, really? And? There was a death. I see. And he says, Shafiq is demanding we take action. Of course she is. She is always impetuous. He says, Thomas says, also, probably of more concern, our man inside says Shafiq, well, there are rumors that Shafiq intends to make a move against you soon. And Gavigan's, you can almost see Gavigan's little smirk as he says, of course she is. It was coming sooner or later. He says, and Kinnery says, how do you intend to handle that? He says, well, let her try. She's overconfident. He says, but she mustn't be allowed to succeed. Can you imagine the Brotherhood with her in charge? And Kinnery says, she certainly lacks your refinement, sir. And he says, quite so, quite so. So Kinnery says, in light of that, sir, I am suggesting that you increase security around your person. Gavigan says, yes, I suppose that is necessary. Anything else? He says, well, of course that does raise the question of the monthly rites. It's quite likely she may try to make her move there, wouldn't you expect? And he says, perhaps. I'm not sure that's her style, but I could see her attempting it. Very well, we shall have to increase security there as well. Anything else, Thomas? And he says, well, I should think that's quite enough, sir, to alarm you and give you food for thought. I thought you wanted to know right away. And he says, yes, Thomas, thank you. He says, now on to other matters that I am concerned with. And he says, it does not escape my attention that you're not pleased with Miss Franken's presence here, but I want you to know, Kinnery, that I'm quite convinced that her presence is not an accident. She will serve a greater purpose. She will help us usher in the end. And he says, are you quite sure you can trust her, sir? Gavigan says, I believe that at the moment perhaps she may have her doubts. But I've no doubt that in time she will come to see things our way, and she will gladly join us in our endeavors. Until that time we must keep an eye on her, so I want you to send for Marcus and Samuel from London. Have them come up as early as they may. We'll drop Miss Franken off at the manufactory tomorrow morning, and they must get here in time for her to be returned here. She'll be staying here. They are not to leave her out of their sight, of course, but they are to treat her with all respect and deference, give her anything she desires within reason. He says, I've no doubt that Shelley is the one that Makunga was speaking of, which means there's no longer any reason to keep Mr. Pepin or his Russian whore about. He says, I'll be returning to London tomorrow, as you may have surmised. It's time to take care of that little problem. There's no reason to keep them alive at this point. And he says, and what about Miss Hall? You can hear Gavigan kind of pause, and he says, yes, she is a problem, but I'm sure I can handle her. He says, I've no doubt I can speak sense into her and elicit a promise of silence to stay out of it. Kinnery says, we've reports that she's gone home to her uncle. Gavigan says, as that is where she should stay. He says, I would hate for any harm to come to the poor girl. Her father was a good friend of Penhugh's. It would be a shame for any harm to come to her. I do still think family counts for something. Kinnery says, quite right, sir, quite right. It's good. I think that's about all, then. We've got an early morning, Kinnery. I suspect you need your sleep as well. And he says, it's always my pleasure to serve you, Lord. He says, it is no problem, Kinnery. I am grateful for all the work you do. And you can hear him say, wake me at 5:30, I should think. And you hear him tromping up the stairs.
Okay, she makes a dive for the bed and pretends to be asleep.
Yeah. He comes through the door and closes it, and you can hear him yawn, and he goes over to the dresser and changes.
slips into his pajamas and slips into bed next to you. And I need to call a short break.
Okay. Escape, but is there a window above this stoop, this porch covering?
No, there is not. You can see where the window is here because the sort of light shining in. So there's a window here. There is a window on the landing. But those are the only, and there's a window at the end of that hall up above to the backyard. Okay. Those were the windows you saw, and one on the ground floor.
That one would probably be the easiest. And is this car operated with a key?
It is.
Okay, so she'd have to hotwire, which would take a bit. All right. Things she's thinking about while she's pretending to be asleep.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that there's actually more than one car parked here.
There are two cars. Yes, the other one. I'm getting a lot of okay. Anyway. Okay, so there is another car. It is not as fancy, so it probably does not have a key. But it is a crank, so you'll have to crank that one.
Where was that one parked? In the front as well?
Yeah, yep. Let's just say it's like here, next to the other one.
All right. Well, for now, she's just waiting for him to fall asleep.
He falls asleep very quickly. You can tell. He's got a little bit of a. Unfortunately, you now kind of recognize he has a little bit of a snore. It's not very loud. It's more like a purr, but you can hear it. So you're quite sure he's asleep.
Adorable. Okay. Well, she's gonna wait. She's gonna wait till she can't hear anything until the house is completely silent. She's also listening to see if perhaps it's not silent, if there's people walking around downstairs or in the hallway.
She can hear. Make a spot hidden check for me. Yeah, you hear somebody shifting around in a wooden chair right outside the door.
Okie dokie. Well, there goes that. The drop from the window in her room, how far would she estimate that being? Like, I don't really know how high the cottage...
12 feet, maybe.
Yeah, that's not good.
It's not great in her condition. It could be done.
No. Well, maybe tomorrow night. Maybe things will be different. She'll go to sleep.
Okay. All right. In the morning, Gavigan wakes you up, and he says, "We must be leaving, my dear." And he says, "Come down when you're ready." And he's already dressed, so he obviously let you sleep in just a little bit. And he and the other kind of go downstairs. You have regained another hit point. Yay!
Yay! Okay. Well, she'll get up and wash up and finally put on some new clothes.
There is a bathroom where you can take a bath downstairs.
Oh, well, she will definitely take advantage of that then.
Mm-hmm. There's also a window to the backyard if you were interested. The door is closed. Nobody is coming in. You can hear not really any conversation going on, but you could see that Kinnery and Gavigan were going to eat breakfast. Beatrix's breakfast.
Well, ideally, she wants one of the vehicles gone if she's going to try to do anything. So she's just gonna start running the water, kind of trying to estimate what time it is. He mentioned having to leave pretty early.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He yeah. Beatrix comes to the door and says, "I've been instructed to tell you to please hurry it up."
Oh, maybe I should do this after he leaves. And she just turns the water off. She hasn't gotten undressed or anything.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then she'll go out and sit and have breakfast and
Okay.
just wait him out.
All right. Gavigan says, "We have to be going soon, my love."
Oh, you're seeing me to the shop. That's right.
He says, "You haven't had time to ready yourself." He says, "That's all right. Isa." Yes, he says, "Stay here with Miss Shelley. You can take the train after you've dropped her off." Or, no, he says, "You can drive the other car home." And Kinnery says, "Is that wise, sir, given the circumstances, to have one of your personal bodyguards put on babysitting duty?" And he kind of looks at you, and he says, "Kinnery will be fine. Once I'm back in London, everything will be quite fine." He says, "Yes, Isa knows how to drive, don't you, Isa?" He goes, "Yes, sir." He says, Good. Then it's settled." He rises and gives you a kiss on the cheek again, and he says, "I will see you in a few days, my dear."
And she just smiles at him and, gives him a wave as he leaves.
Kinnery kind of gives you the stink eye and stands up, and he walks out, and he stops at the door and he says, "I do hope you found your toiletries to be in order."
Yes, you have good taste, she says.
"Of course I do." And he steps out from the room, and you can see Isa just kind of take up a spot there. And Kinnery, Gavigan, Beatrix, Magnus, and Ronan all kind of... actually, he says, "Beatrix, why don't you drive? The car's going to be a little crowded with you present. Why don't you ride home with Isa?" And she says, "If it's all the same to you, he can just drop me at the train station." And he says, "As you wish. Your services here are finished. You'll be well taken care of. Thank you very much again, sister." And they all leave, the four of them. And Beatrix just kind of steps in.
Did I hear that you'll be leaving us?
"I will. My services here are no longer required. Fortunately, you have been a model patient, and you're recovering quite quickly. You have a strong constitution and good childbearing hips, I see."
Perhaps they've never been put to the test.
Well, perhaps you'll get a chance, it appears.
Shelley just suddenly feels the food and her throat kind of gets stuck. She hadn't been thinking about that, and drinks some water.
And she says, "If you won't be terribly long, I'm hoping you can drop me at the train station on your way to work."
Oh, I I'd love to see you off.
Excellent.
Oh, I won't be long then.
Good, good. And she says, I'm going to gather up my things, and she says, would you give me a hand with my bag? He says, he just kind of nods. He kind of gives a quick look at you and then just sort of figures, nah, and goes upstairs with her. You can hear them going up the steps.
Okay, Shelley goes back to the bathroom, starts running the water really loud. She checks to see if the window is, secured or if she can open it.
It's not secure. You can open it.
She'll open it, and has she heard the other car take off?
Yes. Oh, yes, it's long gone.
And I'm assuming they took the nice car.
They did.
Well, she's brought everything with her. She stuffed it all in her bag.
Mm-hmm.
She wonders if another opportunity is going to present itself. How long does it take to crank the other car?
Depends on how lucky you are and how skilled you are at driving. So your drive auto score is going to you're going to keep doing it until it cranks over. But you hear the two of them going out the front door as he takes her bag to the car.
Ah, okay.
And he says, I'll stay here until you keep an eye on her. And he just kind of sits in the car, and she goes back in, and you can see she just sits in the couch.
They're too smart. All right. Okay, she'll just kind of snap her fingers like, shoot. Oh well, that's not gonna work.
She comes and she says, "Do hurry up," she says. "My train is scheduled to leave in 20 minutes."
Okay, Shelley will just splash some water on herself and, pretend bath, get out, so she doesn't make them late.
Okay. And I assume you get in the car. He drives to the train station, and you can see it's the Derby train station, so you now know what town you are in. And she has him take her bag to the train for her. And he, of course, wants you to come with them. But there is a moment where he is hauling her bag onto the train, and he's not watching you at the moment.
Okay. Is the car left running?
It is.
All right. How close were they parked to the train?
Not far.
All right. So I think what she would have done is, acted like she's complying, but she's just do it slowly. So just kind of tag along slowly, getting farther behind them.
Right.
And then...
And he initially he looks back and he says, "Keep up," and Beatrix is saying, "I'm going to miss the train, hurry." And he seems just a little flustered, but he obviously doesn't like being scolded by her, so he kind of rushes along after her.
She's got to do it. There's not going to be a better opportunity if she makes a dash for the car.
Yep. Well, the car is running, so you can get in the car and drive away.
Yep. That's what she does. She gets in, slams the door, puts it in reverse. She's out of there. Pedestrians be damned.
Yes. And you drive away. You can see in the rear view mirror
that he kind of has rushed back to the platform, and he's looking for the car, and you can see him kind of look down the street at the car zipping away, and you just see this look on his face. It's a mixture of oh shit and anger. And then you you head off down the road.
Her heart's pounding a
Yes.
1,000 beats a minute at this point.
Well, it does take her some time to figure out how to... I assume she's going to London.
She's going to London. She's also going to search the car to see if there's any weapons in it.
There is actually a revolver, a 38 revolver in the glove compartment.
Not her weapon of choice, but she'll take it.
Mm-hmm. So you have to ask for directions a few times, but you eventually make it back to London by early afternoon.
She heads to... Let me see. I don't think she's going directly to the hotel. She's going to the newspaper.
Okay.
And she's going to see if Alan's in.
He is. It's not Natalia here this time. He is there.
Okay, so
You could see immediately when you walk in, and he sees your face, he says, he kind of looks like he's seen a ghost almost. And he says, Shelley?
she walks in. You probably heard a screech from outside as she, just jammed the brakes and stuck it into park. She runs inside looking around, notices him, and then she just kind of runs up to him, almost like she's going to fall into his arms, but she doesn't. She stops and she says, Alan, I was afraid to go back to the hotel. I don't know if Natalia and Thaddeus are still there, but I need to speak to them now.
I believe they are. What's... he says, well, it's good you're safe. Natalia's been going on and on about how you're missing and such, but he says...
None of us are safe, Alan. We need to get to them fast. Gavigan.
He grabs...
And then she looks around the room. Obviously they're not alone, but she grabs him by the arm, basically, and starts
There's
pulling
a
him.
guy who's just kind of lighting a pipe and looking at you oddly, like, who's this hysterical woman? But he's, they're trying to kind of politely ignore this little... They don't know really what's going on. And Alan just grabs his coat and he says, well, let's go. And he says, shall I get us a cab?
She says, I've got a car.
Oh.
She takes him to the car.
All right. Are you driving?
Yeah, she's going to drive. She doesn't assume that he knows how.
Yeah, he just gets in the passenger seat and you drive to the hotel.
She drives near the hotel, and she stops, and she looks around, looking to make sure that she doesn't see anything suspicious. She's in full paranoia mode.
Mm-hmm. The coast looks clear to you.
Did Alan bring a coat?
He did.
And she asks to borrow the coat.
Well, of course you can. He takes it off. And he says, sorry, I wasn't polite enough to offer it to you earlier.
No. Someone might be watching the hotel. She puts it on. She pulls the collar up as far as she can. She had asked for a scarf for the thing she had. What's his name? Bring her. She ties the scarf around her head,
Okay.
covering her hair a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Then she waits to see if there's a group of people that approach, or maybe even another couple, and basically tries to enter with her arm in Alan's. If there's a group, she would try to
Yes.
kind of instigate, insinuate them into the group.
Yeah, she can do that. There is a group of people laughing and going in, and you just kind of slip in with them.
She doesn't stop at the concierge. She goes straight up to Thaddeus's room.
Okay. Does she knock on the door, or does she just go in?
She'll knock.
Okay, then that is where we will invite them in. I'll go get them.
They're just gonna get handed to us right now.
Hey
Yeah.
guys, you can come in now.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, to relog him.
Oh my god.
All right.
She's with Alan.
Well, let's go. Oh shoot, I forgot to change to the hotel. So yes, it is the following morning. That morning. You remember the incident that happened at night and all that. Thaddeus has been sleeping, Natalia. He's been exhausted that morning, and you've just kind of been sitting with him, and just kind of looking out the window. And I'm sure thinking about what you want to do. And it's early afternoon, about 1:30. There is a knock on the door.
And Natalia will, look over to Thaddeus and kind of think about, the earlier intrusions in the day with the gentleman that came in claiming to be friends with Alice. And she gets up from her chair, kind of lost in thought, and she'll open the door slightly, looking at, hello?
And there stands Shelley. You want to describe what she looks like?
She's looks very diminutive at the moment, wrapped up in a man's coat. She stands at the door, looking up at you with wide eyes. She's visibly trembling. Natalia. And she just kind of stumbles into you and puts her arms around you.
Natalia is just stunned. She takes a moment, feels Shelley stumble into her before grasping onto her tightly and even kind of picking her up. Shelley, I was so worried. What happened? What happened? And she'll pull her back and kind of grab her face. What happened to you?
You can see that there's still a small bandage above one eyebrow. A lot of bruises that are starting to fade to yellow, on her forearms and hands and neck and face. She backs away from you a little bit, looks around frantically for Thaddeus. Thaddeus, are you okay?
Thaddeus hearing voices kind of rouse him out of his sleep. And he kind of like opens his eyes wide and looking around. Who's there?
It's Shelley. We need to move. We need to move hotels now.
Daddy's hearing Shelley would sit up. What? You're safe, and
We're not safe. He's coming.
Who? Who's coming?
Gavigan.
Now?
He was headed for London just ahead of me. He was going to take... He said he was going to take care of you now, that he didn't... Now... He's coming to kill you.
kill him.
He's got men. He's got a lot of men.
Shit. Shit. We got to go.
Daddy's looking at Talia. Didn't you, if I remember right, say something about having connections? Can you call them?
I don't know if I can call him. I can let him know, but I don't know how long it'll take for him to mobilize.
We need to find somewhere else, somewhere he doesn't know about. He may not have heard yet. He was on the road. He may not have gotten a call that I'd escaped. He may not know yet.
He had you.
Shelley looks away, just out the window for a minute, and she sucks in her cheeks and kind of bites them, like she's just kind of trying to hold herself together. Tightens her hands, form little fists at her side, and she nods without looking at you. But I'm back. We just need to go. Another hotel, any other hotel.
Okay, we'll find another one in the area. She'll look to Thaddeus. I'll let the concierge know, and I'll
No,
ask...
don't tell anyone. Just go. And she says, I'll get my things out of my room. Just only take what you need. I've got a car. I've got a car outside.
Okay, there's a place. Maybe we can go, Alan's.
Thaddeus will look around and... okay.
Alan is... He brought me here.
He did?
I stopped there first. I needed to know that you were still here before I came over here.
Okay, we can move hotels. I will get my things. And Natalia quickly leaves the room, going to hers.
Mm-hmm.
Thaddeus is gonna sit up from sleep and look around, get up and make his way towards a suitcase. Or I guess I could say trunkish type thing. He's gonna gather the stuff that he wants to take with him.
Okay. So just the essentials. It sounds like you're trying for speed to get out of here quickly.
Yeah, essentially he's gonna take the luggage with the shotguns in it and throw the books in there. And it should have some whiskey in there as well.
You can't leave that behind.
No.
Okay.
And Shelley will go into the room and just toss things haphazardly, shoving them into a suitcase. She's not going to take more than one.
Did you and Natalia share a room, I think? Didn't you?
We had different rooms, but we ended up sharing a room quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Okay, you guys throw things together and are ready roughly around the same time as each other.
Thaddeus will throw on a long attempt to make a shotgun look like a cane as he's hobbling, just in case someone meets him out in the street.
Wait, we should go separately. I'm parked, and she describes where she parked and what the car looks like.
Okay.
Let's stagger our exits so that if someone's watching, they don't notice the three of us leave at the same time.
Okay, the two of you leave first. I'll leave after. I'll stay the longest. I'll leave in, God, 15 minutes.
Okay, I'll go first and get the car running.
Okay. Thaddeus, are you able to go alone?
What do you mean?
I should be fine. And then he's gonna hold on to the shotgun, put his weight on. You should probably grab that bag, Natalia. It has some stuff in it.
Of course, Thaddeus, and she'll haul his bag as well. Shelley, there's much to discuss. Once we're safe, we have a lot to talk about.
She bites her lip and looks at Thaddeus, kind of looks him up and down, but just nods. Then she grabs her suitcase and heads out of the hotel.
Okay.
Once again, kind of hunched up in the man's coat.
Mm-hmm. You see the car, and Alan's kind of standing by the car, just kind of looking around. And he sees you. And just
Shelley
kind of nods.
pops the trunk, tosses the suitcase in.
He says, "Is Natalia all right?"
Yes, they're coming.
Good. He helps you with the bag.
Get in. We're going to take off as soon as they make it out here.
All right. He
Daddy.
does get in.
Thaddeus, after waiting a little while, will start limping his way through and leaning on a shotgun like it's a cane, but under his coat.
Mm-hmm. Why don't you... Yeah, make a stealth check for me. I'll give you two bonus dice because no one's paying too much attention. You may all say, "Oh, Mr. Pepin, glad to see you up and about." The concierge, but they're not really looking at your cane. You can see you can see the concierge looks rather curiously at your cane, but he actually doesn't say anything. He just says, "Happy hunting. Have a good day, sir."
Thaddeus will give him a nod and a smile as he makes his way past them. Not saying much.
Yeah, he goes out. He can see the car parked across the street. Alan and Shelley are there already. Shelley's in the driver's seat. Alan's in the passenger seat, looking with some obvious nervousness at you.
When Thaddeus gets to the car, he's not going to get in. He's going to stand there and wait.
Okay. It's about 15-20 seconds after you get to the car, a car pulls up in front of the hotel, and you can see two men get out that look somewhat rough, like this, and another man gets out of the passenger seat.
Thaddeus standing there is gonna holler to Alan, "Are these friends of yours?"
He says, "They're no friends of mine."
And he'll start kind of hobbling his way over there.
No, Thaddeus. Get in the car. We'll pull up to the hotel.
Well, I can meet you there. I don't want Natalia being surprised by these guys.
All right. She'll let him put some distance between the car, and then she's going to, whip the car around and pull up directly in front of the hotel.
Thaddeus, he get out, and this guy takes a quick look around. How do you respond? You can see he may see you, in a second. Like you can see he gets out of the car and he's kind of taking this wide look around.
He's gonna keep hobbling because I don't think he'd be close enough to really be threatening with the shotgun with the spread and stuff unless he's using slugs, which I don't think he is. So he's gonna keep closing, but he's gonna stare at him as he does.
All right. He does not see you right away, so you're kind of heading over. Maybe to your frustration, he just turns and they head into the hotel. And you're hobbling along a little slower than you'd like, trying to cross the street. And they slip inside the hotel before you can get there. You're about halfway across the street when they do that. Natalia, you are upstairs and about to come downstairs. And it's not it doesn't take a genius to spot these guys coming in. You're kind of at the top of the stairs. You see these three men that look out of place except for the gentleman. And the two guys just kind of come in, and you can hear the concierge saying, "Can I help you, gentlemen?" What is Natalia doing?
Is there like another another staircase down?
If you go all the way down the hall, there is another staircase that leads to sort of the back area of the hotel where there's the bar and that sort of thing. You can go that way.
Yeah. Natalia's going to pause seeing them. She's going to make the quick decision to take kind of the long way, going down the stairs to go through the bar to exit instead. She's kind of panicking.
Okay. So, and how are you moving? You are sort of in sight of them if they look up. She's
gonna try and turn casually, walk with purpose, but not in any sort of hurried motion, trying not to appear out of place. That she's just kind of traveling from one place to another.
Right. Okay, why don't you attempt a stealth check for me? See if you can.
No.
No. All right. Let's see if he notices you. He gets bonus dice. Oh, he does. You're walking along and you're shaking a little bit. You didn't realize, and you think you're about to maybe slip out of view, and you just chance a look back for just at the last moment, just to see if they're looking at you. And this guy happens to be he's looked up and he's looking right at you when you see him, and you suddenly see this little grin appear on his face. What does Natalia do? Did I lose you, Natalia? Hello? I can't hear anything. So outside, Thaddeus sees them disappear inside the hotel, and I assume he's still kind of speeding along the street to get in there, frustrated at his bad leg as he's trying to get across there. What is Shelley doing after that? After Thaddeus is hobbling.
Uh-oh. With these two now?
Oh my gosh. So my question was, Thaddeus is trying to pursue with his hobbling leg across the street after they disappear into the hotel. What is Slip doing? Or what is Slip? What is Shelley doing?
Um, okay, so Shelley is parked right in front of the hotel. Is there a valet there?
Well, I thought you had parked like maybe across the street, so
She
you could
did,
see.
and I
Yeah.
said as soon as Thaddeus
Okay.
got out,
Oh, she's pulling
she
over.
just
Okay.
she pulling up right in front of the.
Okay. Um, there isn't a there's certainly a what do you call it? Like a bellboy kind of guy, but they don't really do valet parking because there aren't really enough cars to valet park, as it were. It's just
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, she's going to tell Alan to keep the car running, and she's going to jump out with her bag.
Okay. She jumps out right
Is it
as.
working now?
Yes, we hear you.
Oh my
Yay!
God.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
So yeah, where we left you, I assume you heard that guy throws you a wicked little grin, looking right at you. So outside, yes, you guys are Shelley's jumping out of the car around the same time Thaddeus is kind of getting to the sidewalk, but Shelley's just a bit ahead of him. So Natalia, what do you do? There's this little. He's just got this little shit-eating grin on his face, like the cat that caught the canary look.
And she sees that, and her face just goes white, and she just starts running for the back stairs.
Is she still carrying her bag with her?
Yes.
Okay. You hear footsteps rather hurriedly on the stairs coming up, and you hear the concierge say, "Excuse me, sir." But that doesn't slow them down.
Yeah, she's just sprinting at this point, trying to get down the stairs.
Yeah,
trying to keep grasp of
she's
everything.
running down the hall. The stairs are like 20 yards away, and one of the guys, you kind of glance back and you can see one of them at the head of the stairs. Look in your, and he just starts running down the hall towards you, and you see this other guy behind him, the gentleman, and he starts as well. Shelley, I assume you're rushing into the hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get. Sorry, go ahead.
So how much? I mean, how much of these guys who entered can she sees? Because she obviously knows who the gentleman.
Yeah, she sees him and another one disappearing up the top of the steps. Like when she gets in the hotel, those two have just arrived at the top of the landing, at the top of the steps on the second floor where your rooms are, and she can see this other one has headed down kind of parallel on the first floor, like he's heading towards the back of the hotel.
Shelley,
They're moving very quickly.
where's Thaddeus?
Thaddeus is probably 10 yards behind her.
So he's headed up the stairs behind the gentleman and
The gentleman is behind it. So this guy is at the head of the stairs, and the gentleman is like 2 steps behind him.
And where's Thaddeus? Is he in front of them or?
Oh no,
lagging
Thaddeus
behind?
is behind you. You actually
Oh,
overtook
God.
him. You
Yeah,
drove over faster than he could hobble, and popped out of the car and ran in. And he's trying to keep up with you, but you're a little faster than he is right now.
She runs in. She tries to catch the concierge's eye. She has one hand in her bag, rummaging for that pistol, and she shouts up the stairs, "Hey, Arthur!"
the concierge man says, what's going on?
These are criminals. They're trying to hurt my friend.
He says, I'll call the police. And you can
That may be too late.
and you can see him rummaging for the phone. Natalia, you're running down the steps. Make a Constitution check for me. Or not the stair. You're running down the hall. Yeah, it's just you're stumbling. You're feeling weak, and you can feel they are kind of gaining on you. They're rushing down the hall at you as well, and you kind of reach the stairs, and they've closed the distance to about maybe 15 yards behind you.
Natalia is going to she's gonna throw one of the bags, most likely Thaddeus's, at at the guys as kind of a distraction, seeing if she can open it at the same time to kind of throw clothes on them.
Okay, just do your rock thrown. That's essentially the same thing. You're just throwing a random thing.
Oh my god.
It goes a little wide. Like you throw it down the hall at him, but he just kind of puts up an arm and kind of beats it aside. It does, slow him for a moment. And then you're heading down the stairs.
Yeah, she's gonna keep running.
Okay. Try a dexterity check for me, because I assume you are racing down the stairs, not being super careful.
Oh yeah.
All right. You stumble about halfway down and slip and tumble on the landing. You take 1 point of damage. It's a bruise, but the worst part is that you've kind of fallen down, and you can see them at the top of the steps, and they kind of the guy there.
I don't know if she has enough time to run.
He's the only one.
Probably not. So she's
you.
gonna try and use her.
And he stops and he pulls a knife out and kind of gives that snarl that you can see.
Running
and
is not her strong
kind of starts
suit,
to
so
rush
she's
down the
gonna
stairs
decide
at you.
Stand and fight in this moment, and use her own case to try and block the first hit.
She can try, but
she's
gonna have to make another dex check. Okay. So that would count as like a dodge. So go ahead and make a dodge. He swings his knife. He was not expecting you. So your dodge is a little clumsy, but he was not expecting you to put up a fight. He clearly expected you to just kind of panic like a like a trapped animal and just sit there and take the knife, but you didn't.
She's going
you
to
raise the bag at the last minute, and his knife kind of just stabs into your bag and slices the leather a bit, and now you're sort of half standing, half on one. You're on one
knee. One should they
how do
use?
you react now?
For fighting, because I have the brass knuckles. Oh, unarmed. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead. He's gonna fight back. He's not. So he is also gonna make an attack at the same time.
For for fighting, because it has a brass knuckle. Oh, unarmed. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Yep. Ooh. Oh, he fumbled complete. Oh, say so. So he tries to take another swipe at you, and you come up hard, and punch him in the chin, and his fumble. So he reels backwards and kind of stumbles back down onto the staircase.
Seeing red a bit, seeing the knife.
There is a moment now where you could make a break for it, or you could press your advantage depending on what you want to do. Okay, go ahead. He's kind of on the defensive, so he's gonna try to dodge. Yeah, he didn't dodge, but again, you sort of you're both are kind of almost comically, if it was funny, sliding around on these stairs. And you try to punch him, and you also
she's gonna try and break out of it,
and
so
kind of hit your hand on the steps, but you don't even notice it. Your adrenaline's just going crazy. And he tries to make a grab for you. So make a. You can make either a dexterity or a strength check against
She is just
his.
hoping to kind of halt their advance.
Okay. Oh no, he grabs
like they
hold
were
of
chasing
you.
Someone, and
Let's jump back to Shelley
assume that was Natalia,
and Thaddeus. Shelley, you called out Arthur.
Situation
and
so
then
that was really
what?
all she did, and she's been fumbling around in her bag, kind of reaching for the pistol.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That was really all she did, and she's been fumbling around in her bag. She's just gonna
it's there.
Start taunting and try to get him to come back down
What does
this
she
way.
do next?
And she's not gonna pull
you
the
can
pistol
hear
out
that
of her
you said that
handbag.
as
She's
they
gonna
were
her
taking
hand
off down
in
that
the
hall
purse,
and disappearing from view,
holding on to it.
Obviously in pursuit of somebody.
She's gonna call Arthur. Arthur. Start taunting and try to get him to come back down this way. And she's not gonna pull the pistol out of her handbag. She's gonna keep her hand in the purse, holding on to it.
Okay.
She's gonna call Arthur. Arthur.
You see him reappear at the top. He had started running, but you can see he comes back, and he stands at the top of the stairs, and he's glaring at you. And Thaddeus, you finally hobble into the lobby of the hotel, and you can see there's the people. There were a small handful of people. The people that Shelley kind of snuck in with earlier. They're still in the lobby, kind of talking about their morning, and they've kind of recoiled, and they're like over by the couches.
Shelley
and stuff
actually
in the lobby area,
came up with something else to say, but it may not happen.
Looking wide-eyed, like what is going on? Clearly, something's happening.
I mean, depending on
and you see this
timing,
man at the
she
top
plans
of the
to
stairs,
say,
kind
tell
of
Arthur,
peering
"There's
down,
been a
and
change
he
of
and
plans,
Shelley
Arthur.
just kind
He's
of
waiting
exchanging
outside."
this look at one another.
Shelley actually came up with something else to say, but it may not happen.
Okay.
I mean, depending on... Yeah, she's not any good at this. Come on. Tell Arthur. There's been a change of plans, Arthur. Fail, fail, fail,
Okay.
fail, 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 fail.
You can try a fast talk. That's a total.
Can I spend the points to make it? Or
Uh,
you
I'll
can only
give
spend
you
three, yeah.
one
Close.
bonus die though, because, yeah, just because there could be reasons. No. Close. Close.
Okay, she's gonna do that, and then she's
he's-
gonna, if she sees him following
can
down,
only
she's just
spend
gonna
5.
make this, come on outside.
You know what? In this case, I'll let you spend the 8. That's fair enough. It was a good idea, and you were close. So yeah, you can spend the 8 points of luck.
She just shrugs and rolls her eyes, and she turns around and walks out, and when she sees Thaddeus coming in, she makes in front of her a shooing gesture with her
He
hand.
looks confused for a moment, and he says,
Get outside, quick.
You're
Get around the
lying
corner."
to me
She'll even
again.
whisper that.
You're a liar.
Around the corner, and Thaddeus is gonna stop because he's still leaning on the shot.
They're coming.
And when she sees Thaddeus coming in, she makes in front of her a shooing gesture with her hand. Like, outside, quick, get around the corner. She'll even whisper that.
So she just keeps walking like she just expects that he's going to do it. Like she's not stressed about it.
Yes, you can.
And she'll walk out the door.
You can see in the reflection of the
Thaddeus will
the glass doors. You can
hobble
see
around the
him
corner of the door and
coming down the
stand and wait.
steps tentatively.
I tricked him into coming out. I don't know what to do now, she says as soon as she's out the door.
Mm-hmm.
Stressed about it.
Um,
And she'll walk out the door.
Thaddeus will hobble around the corner of the door and stand and wait.
well, Thaddeus when he goes around the corner and sees Shelley come out
and you
saying
can
that
you can
she-
look
he's
and you can
gonna
see
level the
him.
shotgun
He's
at the
walking
door.
past, and you
Well,
can
when
see
he-
the
not
concierge
at the door, but at the crosswalk.
kind of remonstrating
Okay,
with him
so
and
when
like,
he
you know,
does
what's
that,
going
Shelley's
on,
going
and
to position
but he's
herself
not
with her
looking at
hand
the
and her
concierge
purse
at all.
outside
He
the
just,
door, like
he's
where
just
Arthur would be
walking
able to see
out.
her, so that his attention would be focused on her when he comes out the door.
Corner and see Shelley come out saying that he's gonna level the shotgun at the door. When he's not at the door, but at the crosswalk.
Okay, so when he does that, Shelley's gonna position herself with her hand and her purse outside the door, like where Arthur would be able to see her, so that his attention would be focused on her when he comes out the door.
Mm-hmm. He steps out the door, and let's go back to Natalia.
I'm looking for
so
you, not a
Natalia,
bird. And she's gonna
um,
try and elbow him.
what
Try
do
and get out of the
you do
grapple.
now? He has grabbed onto you, and he's saying, "Don't struggle, little bird. It'll be easier."
I'm looking for you, I'm not a bird. And she's gonna try and elbow him. Try and get out of the grapple.
Okay, you can make a strength check against his strength.
And Natalia,
Oh, you.
does she have time to kind of grab her bag and keep running?
You're trying to. You're
is it gonna
struggling
be
to
left
get out,
there?
and you can just hear him kind of. You're not going anywhere, and you just kind of surprise him with a quick slip out of his arm, and you can do something.
She values that bag way too much. All her notes are in there, the manuscripts, the picture of her daughter. So she's gonna lay into him again. Just try and knock him
She
out.
can try to grab it, but that could go badly. That could give him the opportunity to grab her again. But you can try.
She values that bag way too much. All her notes are in there, the
Okay.
picture of her daughter. So she's gonna lay into him again. Just try and knock him out.
Okay. I'm gonna give you a bonus die because he's kind of still down on the steps where he was holding you, and he was a little surprised that you managed to get out. So go ahead. Oh,
That's extreme, which, yeah, I believe it already accounted for the extreme. No, it did not. So, I'm trying to, I think with an extreme, that's like a critical hit, which should do some extra, but let's quickly look at that.
God.
I may just make a quick judgment here. Yeah, I think I'd rather just call it. How about we do an extra? We'll just do maximum damage instead of what you rolled. That would be 7.
Yeah, she'll take a moment to just take a
So
deep breath before
you take him
quickly grabbing her
hard
bag
under
and
the chin again,
hurrying,
and
trying
he
to get out.
collapses back on the steps, and you definitely have a moment now to grab your bag and run.
She'll take a moment to just take a deep breath before quickly grabbing her bag and again hurrying, trying to get out.
He just says, "Come back here, you little cunt!" And you can see him trying to struggle to his feet and kind of slipping. As you're,
Natalia will kind of dart her eyes around. Is there
you take these
any
other
other
stairs
exits
and
beside?
open the door to the bar area. You can see the other guy has just rushed into the bar, and he's kind of
Yeah, she's gonna
making
take
his
that.
way over towards the
Her
staircase.
eyes dart around the room, seeing him, looks to the right and sees the exit to the door, and she just runs.
Make a luck check. Yes, there is an exit out to the street here.
She's gonna take that. Her eyes dart around the room, seeing him, looks to the right, exit to the door.
And I'll see
Runs.
if he sees you. He does not appear to have seen you. When you saw him, he was actually looking back, like something back towards the front
I
of
don't
the
know
hotel
if she has any
was
directional sense at
distracting
this
his
point.
attention. And then
where the street
then you close the door and head out the other exit
go on my sheet for that one.
as he's turning around. Okay, so you punch out through the door and out onto an alley.
Navigate. I don't know if she has any directional sense. I forget. Is it the green one or the black one?
Well, make a navigate check for me. See how well you're. Oh, you might.
Oh, well, I failed. Oh, can I spend the 5 luck? Yeah, I'm gonna spend the 5 luck.
I believe it is. Oh, either one doesn't matter. One of them just doesn't do a. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So you're really not sure which way, but you can, sure. Okay, so you know exactly where you are.
She'll go.
Yeah, you're
towards
in
where
a
the
back
alleyway
alley
is, to
behind
the-
here. If you go to the left, you'll get out to a main street. If you go to the right, there's another alley along the side of this hotel, and that will lead you out to the front where the car is.
She'll go towards where the alleyway is.
Yep.
Natalia doesn't
Okay.
stop. She's just gonna keep
So
running
you
as fast
run
as
into
she
that
can.
alley, and you can hear
trying to
behind
get
you
to
the
the
door
car.
you went through kind of flying open. And you can hear a voice saying, "I'll go this way, you go that."
Natalia doesn't stop. She's just gonna keep running as fast as she can, trying to get to the car.
She says he gave me a note.
Okay.
It's right here.
You
it explains
are running
everything. And she
back to the front of the hotel.
starts walking
outside.
closer to him. And as she gets
okay.
really close to him, she pulls the pistol out and just kind of
the
shoves it in his
gentleman
stomach.
comes out and sees you, and he says, "Where is he?"
Says he gave me a note. It's right here. It explains everything. And she starts walking closer
She says, "Get in the car.
And as she gets
There's more to this than you know."
pulls the pistol out and just kind of shoves it in his stomach.
Okay. He looks down, and then he looks up in your eyes, and he says, "I always knew you were a traitor."
He says, "Get in the car. There's more to this than you know."
Make an intimidate check with 2 bonus dice. Oh yeah. You can see he's trying to put on a brave
And
face,
Shelley
but you've
walks
seen
right
him,
behind him. I mean, she's got walking
you
close.
know, kind of lose his nerve
She's got the
before,
pistol in
kind
his
of thing,
side,
and
but kind of trying to
he's
hide it
showing
from
all the signs
public
that he's
view.
kind
But
of turning
she
to jello.
gives Thaddeus a
Um,
look,
and he
and
just
she says, "Get him in a
just
car."
kind of sees the car, and he just walks toward it with some resignation.
And Shelley
And he
walks right behind him, and she's got walking.
"Oh, hush, Arthur," she whispers in his ear like she's trying not to let Thaddeus hear.
Public view.
Mm-hmm.
Gives Thaddeus a look. She says, "Get him in the car."
Shelley will get in
turns
next
around.
to
He says,
him.
"You know you'll get nothing from me but name
"Alan,
and rank."
can you drive? Does anyone see Natalia?"
Whispers in his ear like she's trying not to let Thaddeus hear.
Thaddeus is gonna lean over and look inside the
Um,
doorway and
he
see that no
gets
one's
in the
coming,
car.
and he's gonna go in.
Shelley will get in.
Okay, so Shelley's kind of left
Okay.
in the back seat with Arthur.
Drive. Does anyone see Natalia?
Not yet. They do not.
Thaddeus is gonna lean over and look inside the doorway and see that no one's coming. And he's gonna go in.
Okay, so Shelley.
Shelley says, "Keep your eyes open for Thaddeus and Natalia.
And
We
Alan
need to
is
take off
there
as soon
as
as they're in
well.
the car."
And
And then she leans over and she
He's
whispers
sitting
to
in the
Arthur,
passenger seat, and he kind of turns around and can see you with a gun
"I've
in
been
the
tracked
guy's
into
side, and he
"I had
he
to go
doesn't
with
say
them,
anything, but his eyes kind of widen a little
but
bit.
but I can bring them to Gavigan.
Shelley says, "Keep your eyes open for Thaddeus and Natalia. We need to take off as
I
soon
need-
as they're in the car." And then she leans over and she whispers to Arthur, "I've been tracked inside."
Thaddeus went inside. He didn't see Natalia,
What?
and he knows there's 2 guys in there. Didn't know she exited.
He's looking at you.
Shelley will
And then-
continue to whisper. She says,
He looks at
"I'll bring him a
Thaddeus. What's
present for the
Thaddeus doing?
ceremony.
Thaddeus
But
went
I need to know
inside.
where.
He didn't see Natalia.
I'll let you escape so that you can warn him."
Didn't know she exited.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Shelley will continue to whisper. She says, "I'll bring him a present for the ceremony. I need to know where.
Arthur.
Escape so that you can warn him."
Good show, good show.
And he's looking at you curiously, and he says very loudly, obviously for Alan McIntyre's benefit, he says, "Lieutenant Arthur Higgins, Queen's Fusiliers. That's all you'll get from me." And he leans forward a
And-
little conspiratorially.
Shelley gives him one last
and-
whisper. "This might be our last
He
chance.
says,
We may not get along, but we're both on
"Happy
Gavigan's side."
thought." And at that point, Natalia comes dashing out of the alley, and you see the car.
Shelley gives him one last whisper. "This might be our last.
She sprints to the car. And I want to.
We're both on Gavigan's side."
He says, "Yes." He says, "I told you you'll not get anything from me." What's Natalia doing? She can see Shelley and Alan sitting in a car.
Sprints to the car.
And you saw behind you in the alley as you're running, you can see
the guy that you
Natalia's just
punched
sprinting over to the
kind
car.
of
and she's
running
just yelling,
down
"Shelley!
the alley towards
Thaddeus!
you, but
We have to
he's a
go!"
little slower
She kind
now.
of runs over and
you
throws
you
her back
banged him up pretty
inside.
bad.
I'm looking in.
Uh,
Where's Thaddeus?
so he's a little ways behind you. You have a window here. You're not in any great danger, but he will get there soon.
Oh my god.
Sprinting over to the car, she's just yelling, "Shelley! Thaddeus! We have to go!" She kind of runs over and throws her back inside, looking in. Where's Thaddeus?
Thaddeus, give me a listen check.
Upon hearing this, Thaddeus is going to look at the concierge guy. Would you be a good sir and wrap my stuff up?
Oh,
and put
he
in the
hears it.
room?
And so,
and the
for
other
once,
young
your
ladies, we
hobbling
must
nature
expedite
actually, at the
our
moment,
exit right
actually
now.
works in your favor because you hadn't gotten very far inside the hotel. And you hear Natalia.
Upon hearing this,
And he'll just-
Thaddeus is gonna look at the town.
He's going to turn around and walk. He's not even going to wait for a response.
Wrap my stuff up and put it in a room.
And hobble his way out the door.
Ladies, we must expedite.
And then when he sees Natalia, he's going to be wide-eyed.
You
kinda
can see
relieved.
he's on the phone, and he
And
just
she's
kind of
in, like,
says,
"Get in the car! They're coming!"
Of course, sir. He just looks.
He's gonna turn around and walk. He's not even gonna wait for a response.
Yeah.
Alan.
And hobble his way out.
Oh, no, I said, I told him. Yeah.
Wide-eyed, kind of relieved.
Wait. I wanted to,
It's a little crowded in here.
I honestly
But
wanted
you
to
all
kind
get
of
in.
shove. Well, I
Who's
haven't gotten the
driving?
information I need from him yet, so I'll just wait. We'll pull
Oh,
away.
he didn't know he was supposed to drive. He was sitting in the passenger seat. You'd have told him. Okay, yeah. Oh, okay. So he pulls away. He's not the.
Wait. I wanted to, I honestly wanted to kind of shove, no, I haven't gotten the information I need from it yet, so I'll just wait. We'll pull away.
Okay. Alan pulls away, and you can see, the guy in the alley, kind of stumbling out to the
Natalia's kind of looking back,
sidewalk,
looking
and he
wide-eyed,
just
his
kind of
hands
looks
shaking,
as you
face
drive
pale,
off.
and looking down at her knuckles, which are a bit busted at this point.
Takes his hat off and just kind of like dusts it off.
Was it them?
Puts it back on.
It's Gavigan's men.
You have driven off down the road.
We need to find an alley somewhere to dump this one.
Who is he?
Arthur. He's a nobody, really. Unfortunately, I think he speaks the truth. I doubt he knows anything important. Gavigan never really trusted him.
Thaddeus will look over to Alan. Well, do you know of a secluded spot by some body of water that we can dispose of him?
He's a nobody, really.
He says, "I'm no use to you."
Unfortunately, I think he speaks the truth. I doubt he knows anything important. Gavigan never
Shelley turns to Arthur and says, are you sure you don't have anything useful to give up?
Some body of water that we can dispose of them.
But she'll give him a wink.
He looks at you rather pointedly, Shelley, when he says dispose
Everything.
of him.
What are Gavigan's plans?
Shelley turns to Arthur and says, are you sure you don't have anything useful to give up?
He says,
And Shelley rolls her eyes.
"What?" She says,
He's
"He
a
says,
butler,
what do you want to
a
know?"
glorified butler. The only thing that he can be guaranteed to know is
Gavigan's plan.
where Gavin keeps his
Oh.
mustache whacked.
He intends
Arthur,
to
is it-
overthrow the queen and install himself as king. That's his plan. It's a brilliant plan.
I don't care. I've killed a man for less. You're gonna tell us exactly what we need to know.
Glorified butler. The only thing that he can be guaranteed to know is where Gavin keeps his mustache wet. Arthur, is it?
I think maybe he'd
Lieutenant
serve us
Arthur
better as a
Higgins.
messenger.
A
Ma'am,
messenger. For what?
You're gonna tell us.
Send Gavigan a message.
I'm afraid I
What
can't
kind
do
of
that.
message exactly?
I don't know much anyway. And he kind of turns to Shelley.
And he might as well leave us alone because by the time he catches up, we'll be long gone. And he'll never find us. I think this has all gone quite far enough, and
Shelley, there's
What kind of
things we need to talk about. We can't leave. Not
I
yet.
think when I tell you everything I know, you'll change your mind. But she'll turn and she'll look at Natalia and try to fix her face so that Arthur cannot see one side of her face. And I'm sure that Natalia's kind of turned around in the seat. And so with the side of her face that would be Arthur couldn't see, in profile, she would give a slow wink.
Natalia kind of looks to her, looks to Arthur.
Okay. Yep.
Fine. Let him go, but if he causes any trouble, snap his little neck.
I would recommend it, except that a body might make our escape even more difficult. We were known at the hotel.
Fine.
So
I would recommend it, except that a body might make our escape even more difficult. We were known at the hotel.
the Limehouse Ducks tonight.
Arthur kind of leans
Alright.
into Shelley and he just kind of whispers. He says, "Lure them to the Limehouse docks," and he gives you an address.
If we get separated, how can I find my way back to the estate? Yeah, that's kind of a stretch.
If we get separated, how can I find my way back to the estate?
Yes, we never talked about
I'm going to
it.
give him a chance for that one.
I didn't know the name.
Let's see how intelligent he is here.
And then she
Not very intelligent. He says,
she-
"It's Miser House. You were there."
Yes, we never talked about it. I didn't know the name.
I'm not sure we're operating according to the
He says
Geneva
it's on- it's-
Conventions
it's-
here,
it's
but
on
you're
the
lucky
nays.
we need to get out of here quickly.
And
She pats him
he
down
says,
for a
"Well,
weapon
you'd best let me go.
before
As
they
I
leave.
told you, you'll get nothing out of me of any use. I know the Geneva Convention."
Sorry, I have to make it look good.
I'm not sure we're operating according to the Geneva Conventions. You're lucky we need to get out of here quickly.
All right, she'll find a place and she'll kind of
Pats him down for a weapon.
kick him unceremoniously out of the car.
He has a .38 pistol in his coat. He winks at you.
Alright, she'll find a place and she'll kind of kick him unceremoniously out of the car.
He kind of falls in a heap on the Alan drives down an alley and you just kind of kick him and he kind of rolls into a trash bin and stands up and he
As they drive
tries
away,
to wink
Shelley
like
tosses
and
both
puts
pistols
like
kind of
his
on the
little-
seat
his hand
beside
up,
her.
like he
Lets all
he
the
thinks
tension
maybe if
come
he
out
does
of her,
it
and
behind
she
his head,
starts to
no one
laugh.
else will see.
Almost
but you'll see.
hysterically.
And
I
then
can't
Alan
believe that
drives away.
worked.
What?
As they drive away, Shelley
What happened, Shelley?
tosses both pistols.
He really wasn't much use to us, but
Lets all the
he
tension
knows where Gavigan's estate is. He knows it's where they do the sacrifices, the ceremonies. I know how to get back there. And Gavigan, I don't think he'll expect it. He told me to lure us all over to the Limehouse docks tonight. He thinks I'm with them.
He knows where Gavigan's estate is. He knows
I had told him that I would
sacrifices the
try to lure all of you back to the manse
to get back there.
for the ceremony as gifts to Gavigan.
Gavigan
But maybe we could get there sooner, and they wouldn't expect it.
told me to lure us all over to the Limehouse docks tonight. He thinks I'm still...
Natalia looks to Alan, places their hands on him, and gives him a, again with the bloodied hand, but and gives him a smile.
for the ceremony as gifts to Gavigan. But maybe we could get there sooner, and they wouldn't expect it.
I'm still shaking from adrenaline. I fell down the stairs, but I punched a guy out. But your friends, Thaddeus has agreed.
He says,
Do you think they could be ready by
I'm
tonight?
so sorry. Are you all right? I didn't even think to
Tonight.
ask. Are you hurt?
Shit.
It may not have to be by tonight. We can plan something. So, I've told him to tell.
Tonight? I think that's a tall
He
order.
wants us to lure
We
you
still
to
have to talk
Limehouse
to the
docks. If we
bosses.
can find some way
It may not have to be by tonight.
to make it seem like we just couldn't,
Plan something.
then I think Gavigan will be expecting us to show up at his estate, but not until much later. We may have some breathing room.
How? I can't think of anything.
If we can find some...
Well, how about we just go to his estate and, while he's at the dock?
And I think Gavigan will
Well, I think the point was that
show up
you've got some sort of backup set up?
later. We may have some breathing room.
Well, I'm figuring if we don't show up, maybe he'll end up going back to his estate where we can surprise him.
There's things that are in motion, Shelley. We
Well, I think the point was
we have to kill Gavigan.
you've got some sort of backup.
That is no question.
We have to kill both of them.
Both of who?
There's much that has happened, Shelley, and I can see much as I won't ask if you don't want to. Oh God. The Blue Pyramid is not run by Gavigan. It was someone else.
Shafiq.
Yes.
He said something last night,
What about her?
that she was getting ready to make a move, and that he was increasing security.
Well, she has Habiba and Kafiri.
Said something last night.
Oh no.
She
We
said
have to get them back.
Ready to make a move.
the only way is to kill Gavigan
That he was increasing security.
and not let him know that it was her who sent us after him.
He already knows.
Oh shit. Shit.
Well, he doesn't know it's you, but he knows that she's making a move. I guess if we went after him, it certainly would seem the most natural thing in the world.
Oh no. If Gavigan doesn't die, and he knows he's going to kill all of us. She's going to kill all of us and our families. Everything.
Yes. If we went after him,
He won't know, and we will kill him, she says. And as she says that, her eyes narrow and her lips tighten.
I hope so. There's been plans made out. She looks to Alan.
he won't know. And we will.
When can we
As he said,
when can we start this?
tighten.
Okay. right. Hopefully that is sooner than later.
He says, I can
How do
pass the
people
word along
I'm sorry.
and arrange a meeting, but you're going to have to talk to the bosses, as I said. They won't make any moves until they've
How do people
you.
send messages in the city? Some when
He says, I can... No, that's okay. No, you started to talk before he did, so he just stops. He's driving anyway. He's focusing on driving.
all right. And she'll pull out her journal and she'll scribble down a
He
message to
says you
Gavigan
can
that says,
usually put a coin if you're in the right neighborhood.
Pepin wouldn't
Kids
let us
know where
keep
to
the
take
appointment,
messages. Just give them a coin.
period. I'll figure something out, period. See you at the new moon. And then, all my love, Shelley.
Okay.
And she'll fold it up and find, look for, ask Alan for some guidance in finding someone who would be able to, a likely messenger to send it to the Penhew Foundation.
Okay.
Right, so we'll have to,
Ask Alan for some guidance in finding someone who would be a likely messenger to send it to the Penhew Foundation.
Yeah, so you'd need to be in the vicinity of the foundation. So yeah, Alan will drive over there, and yeah, I mean he parks the car, and it doesn't take him more than 5 minutes to find some kid who accepts his shiny shilling
someplace
and goes bounding off toward the foundation, and then Alan gets back in the car and you drive away. He says, "Where are we headed?"
Oh, is Alice okay?
She's fine. She's gone home, Shelley.
He says, "Well,
Oh, maybe that's for the best.
Hole up in my flat. Well,
Gavigan
until we can make
said he was going to
arrangements if you
speak
want."
to her. I didn't like the sound of it.
I just hope she made it out in time. And Thaddeus, I am sorry. Your things, they're back at the hotel. I had to. I was in pursuit. I'm sorry.
Oh, said it's gonna look down and well, I did tell the concierge to wrap things up and put it in my room, your stuff and Shelley's stuff. So hopefully that ends up there and has some stuff in it that I'd rather not to part with.
I'm sorry.
It'd be fine.
Shelley picks up one of the pistols on the seat beside her, and she kind of reaches over to Thaddeus and says, "Would you like one of these?"
And Thaddeus' eyes are wide and, why, yes, I definitely would. That's this. And he's gonna just stop talking and stare. Hold out his hand.
And she'll hand it over carefully, hilt first.
Thaddeus immediately will start messing with it to see if it's loading, how many rounds are in it.
Just stop talking and stare.
And then close it up and smile and tuck into his vest pocket area for the moment.
There's you start messing with it to see if it's loading.
Thank you. This will
is
come in handy,
indeed
for
loaded.
sure.
6 rounds. It's a 38 revolver.
It's better to have it than not. Oh, there's so much to talk about.
Yes. Let's talk back at Helen's home. I need a drink.
We may want to abandon this car somewhere. How recognizable is it?
So much to talk about.
Let's talk back about it.
You don't happen to know, well, back in New York there was always a neighborhood, people might pay for a car
It's
at a
a nice
discount, no
car.
questions asked.
So it's reasonably recognizable, I would say. It stands out.
You don't happen to know, back in New York there was always a
Yeah.
pay for a car at a discount, no questions asked.
Alan says, oh, I think I might know a place for that. And he drives off. And that was the wrong accent, but you get the idea. It's so hard keeping them straight. He drives off, and it takes him an hour or so to find somebody who, just pays him a pittance for the car. It's like a group of like 3 guys, and they just kind of hurriedly, wheel the car off the street. And he joins you, and he says, I suppose we'll be needing a cab then.
I'm assuming Natalia kept some clothes there.
So you get a cab and get to Alan's place. Let's see. Where is Alan's place?
I'm assuming Natalia kept some clothes there.
Yeah, I believe
I know he
she
had
did.
a house.
Which, yeah, they would notice you changing into clothes that are already there. Oh, I don't think I made a spot for his clothes. We'll just, he does. So yeah, you go to Alan's flat. And
Shelley's going to sit down and start scribbling things
it's a
as
humble
fast
place.
as she can, so that she doesn't lose things in her memory. She's
Like
going to write down,
affair.
just some notes about
He says,
people
"Well,
and
make yourself comfortable.
places, and basically things I've already put in Shelley's notes. She's
Apologize
going
for
to
the
start
mess."
trying to replicate diagrams from what she saw at the manufacturing plant.
Fast as she can, so that she doesn't lose things
She'll
in
say,
her memory.
Alan,
Write down
have you heard of a place called the Miser House?
notes about people and places, and basically things I've already put in Shelley's notes.
Okay.
Trying to replicate
Something
diagrams
like
from what she saw
at the Nays?
manufacturing plant.
I don't know.
Alan, have you heard of a place
What's
called the
East
Miser?
Anglia?
He
Well, that
shrugs.
sounds right. It was
Sorry.
definitely the
Doesn't
marsh.
mean anything to me.
That's where Gavigan's estate is.
The Nays. Well,
And this,
that's out in East Anglia.
says Derby.
East Anglia.
Derby is
Swampland
where he's
mostly.
making
Or
something.
marsh.
Sounds right.
Some sort of a weapon.
That's where Gavigan's estate is.
A weapon? What kind of weapon?
Oh, Natalia, something I've never seen.
Derby is
They've got...
where he's making.
He must be the world's greatest
Is this
mind
all?
working on this.
That's.
The blueprints,
He says, "Yeah,
just the
that's up in the
technology for
Midlands."
this, it just doesn't exist. Some sort of rocket that explodes at a certain altitude and releases a payload. I don't know of what, but they're still trying to figure it out. It's like they don't understand the blueprints themselves, and they brought me over to try to help them.
God.
It's nowhere near ready. Honestly, without me, I don't think they'll ever figure it out unless they get this AP back to explain. And then she stops. AP, AP, AP. And she starts thumbing through her notes again. It couldn't be Arthur Penhew. He said it was his man on the ground.
Oh no. Alice.
And she starts thumbing through her notes again.
Shit. We need to destroy those plans as well. Whatever it is. I don't know if we can get the message to Alice. There's one of her friends we need to send a message. Philip Greenwald, he's been having these dreams as well. He's offered to help us too. But he'll know how to contact her.
It seems to be some sort of... He's working in cooperation with the government. I don't know if we'll be able to get in to get the plans.
I knew it. This is all tied together.
But I do know that they do a monthly ritual over at the Miser House. There's an obelisk there. And he never told me, but Arthur intimated that when Gavigan tired of me, I'd die there. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of sacrifice planned.
Oh, Shelley. Natalia's gonna make her way over to Shelley and stand near her, extending her hands out to her. I'm so sorry.
She clears her throat and just blinks her eyes, and she holds up a hand and she says, It's all right. He didn't hurt me. We just, I'll process all of this later.
There it is, just staring, kind of looking kind of glum.
What else? She says, okay, let's see. They took me, pretended to be a taxi outside of Alice's, and took me to Gavigan's, put me in the trunk. But on the way, when I was almost there, I managed to escape from the trunk of the car. I ran out into the marsh. And they looked for me, but it was at night and they couldn't find me. So I stole a car. I almost made it, but they ran me down, and she kind of touches the bandage on her head and the bruises on her face. I wasn't even conscious. They ran me off the road. I woke up at Gavigan's. It's not the most charming place. He has this sort of torture dungeon. And she bites her lip. I convinced him to let me out. And eventually, I think I earned a kind of trust. She said, I saw a letter on his desk in his room. It said that, it mentioned, I didn't see, it was dark and the writing was hard to make out, but maybe it was addressed to someone named Aubrey. It said, Jack Brady is still missing in Shanghai. He was on the Carlisle expedition too, wasn't he?
Yes, according to Elias's notes, he's still alive. This proves it.
Yes, he was complaining that he hadn't been found and that they needed to make it a priority to find and kill him. The name of the place where they're making the weapon in Derby, it's Hanson Manufacturing. There's a woman, a girl really, who seems to be some sort of captive servant, slave at Gavigan's. If we're able to rescue her, honestly, that's a large part of my motivation to go back. Her name's Dorothy. Her father was someone named Alan, someone that disappointed Gavigan. For as long as I was gone, you'd think I would know more than that, but that's all I can think of.
Based on what you spoke to Gavigan about, you know about Shafiq. Do you know how much Shafiq knows?
He didn't actually tell me. I overheard. Said that she was impetuous. That there was a death. That the Russian, I guess that's you, and Thaddeus, broke in and that there was a death.
Yes. We, after that night at the Blue Pyramid, Thaddeus and I were fairly intoxicated and decided to follow this woman. They were mad that you and Alice stole their book. So we followed her. She's the obvious owner. And followed her into her home. Well, her shop. And snuck in. She and her accomplice, I guess, caught us. Thaddeus took he was in the hospital for almost a week. And they brought us to the basement and chained us up, and I took the chance, and he was just a boy, but I killed him. There's so much blood, but I got us out, and Thaddeus to the hospital, and then I went back. I went back to talk to her, and that's when I found out about Kafiri, and oh god, and her plans to kill them in 2 weeks if Gavigan didn't die.
Shelley listens to this, looks at Thaddeus, kind of assessing him. She'd realized that he was kind of slow, but she didn't realize how badly he'd been hurt. And she hooks her arm through Natalia's and sort of leans against her and says, "We do what we must to survive and to save the people that we care about."
Natalia gonna swallows hard and nod. Yes, but things are now in motion to. I hope the bosses, she looks to Alan, are alright with this. But we need some sort of full plan to kill Gavigan.
What sort of boss? I'm assuming we're not talking about Mahoney.
Natalia just stops, bites her lip. I will not speak on this further, Ellen. What sort of boss? I'm assuming we're not talking about Mahoney. Natalia just stops, bites her lip.
Well, and whoever this is, I hope we eventually get to meet him. If it is this Mr. Mahoney.
He's just kind of making a crooked face right now. He's not really sure if he should say anything or not, you can tell.
Yes, well, that is definitely a true statement. But as you said, they have to meet us first. And I don't even know
Alan
who I'm
says,
meeting yet.
"Oh,
So
I thought you had agreed to help."
it's more
with
of
your
on the
money.
lines of can't wait to meet this Mr. Mahoney, I guess.
That is definitely
Oh, that is that the name of Alan's boss? I was
Yes.
just guessing.
The
first,
Aye.
and I don't even know who I'm meeting with.
That's kind of a relief.
On the lines of can't wait to meet this Mr. Mahoney, I guess.
Oh, is that the name of Alan's boss? I was just.
Yes, it is.
Um,
Yeah.
The job is
it
going to
is.
pay well.
He says,
That's-
"Oh, him?
It's going to
No,
be more than just
it's
one
not
target.
him."
I hope your boss would be able to handle that.
A relief.
That old man, no. He's too selfish, too caught up in his own affairs.
Well, the job is going to pay well.
Excellent.
Target.
After all, the money's going towards a good cause regardless.
He shrugs. He says, "Well, I don't know everything. I only know what I know." He
What
says it kind of works that
bastards.
way.
The
By
British,
design.
of course, our old masters.
Oh, I think I've heard something about that.
All the money's going towards a good cause.
Well,
Aye.
maybe
Throwing
they'd
off
be
the shackles
interested
of these
in
bastards.
what's hiding in Derbyshire. Or in Derby, not Derbyshire. Maybe it's in Derbyshire.
The British, of course, our old masters.
Oh. I think I've heard something about that.
He winks at you.
Maybe they'd be interested in what's hiding in Derbyshire. Or in Derby, not Derbyshire. Maybe it's in Derby.
It is in Derbyshire.
Well, right.
He
Well, I
says,
do support that. The freedom of
I
your people.
imagine they would, and
I
he's
don't
kind of
think
looking down at
something
your
that could cause innocent
drawings
mass casualties
and
thing.
rather curiously,
Well, maybe
obviously
they'd-
has no idea what
They wouldn't be
what
able to
any of
make
this
it.
is.
Shelley shakes her head.
Um,
I don't think the British are that close, but maybe someday. She looks over at Alan. I would think that the main goal would be to destroy it.
Cause innocent mass casualties.
Yes.
Thing.
Or maybe they wouldn't be able to make it. Shelley shakes her head. I don't think the British
Um,
are that
Alan,
close, but maybe someday.
did you pick up any vodka, by the way?
I think that the main goal would be to destroy it.
If it's a weapon they
Ah.
could use against my people, I think that's probably true.
Ah,
That's whiskey, but vodka will do.
Oh, of course. Just in case you happen to drop by.
Daddy's just kind of
shoot
licking
you
his
a
lips.
wink. And he goes over and
I'll have the spot of that too.
brings out a bottle of vodka.
That's whiskey, but vodka will do.
Oh, I got whiskey too. I'm an Irishman. He goes over and grabs the bottle you've been eyeing that whole time.
Yes.
Brings
Toast on
over
not
some
being dead
glasses.
yet.
He says,
Have the
Toast.
spot of that.
of course.
Close to stopping the
He
two.
pours everyone
Be
some.
stopped.
And
To
he
being
says, how about a
reunited
toast
again
to,
against all odds.
well, whatever this is.
And Daddy's will quickly drink his glass down and then kind of look at
He
Alan.
says, that
Do you
too,
mind if I
I'll
have
drink
some
to
more?"
that.
Close to stopping the two. Stopped.
Being reunited again against all odds.
And Daddy's will,
I do believe I do somewhere.
and then kind of look at Alan. Do you mind if I have
That's fine. I keep a nice mixture at
He
all
says,
times.
not at all. And he pours you some more. He goes, you must have some Irish in
I
your
do believe
blood.
I was on that cusp. It's been a couple days.
I do believe I
How are you feeling, Thaddeus?
In addition to the alcohol, of course.
He's gonna kind of let out a little smile. Better now.
Can't have
I'm
your
glad.
blood alcohol level getting dangerously low now, can we?
And I'm glad we're all together again.
Yes, and as unharmed as we couldn't be, this is a great moment.
Yes, my knuckles hurt slightly though. I'm just gonna look down at her hand. I did almost break his jaw. I'm fairly proud of that. Thank you.
Uh,
Aye.
I hope I brought my brass knuckles with me. I don't like fighting
Says, oh, I'll get you some
without them.
bandages, love. He goes off and gets some. Get something to wrap your
I'm just gonna pull
hands
them
in.
out again. Do you know who those people were, Shelley? Just hired muscle?
Men who work for
Yep, they're
Gavigan.
there.
I think he mentioned their names. I don't remember. The one man was Arthur. He is fanatically loyal to Gavigan. A true zealot, like a lapdog. The other two, I'm sure they're hired, but I don't think this is the kind of muscle that can be bought. I'm fairly certain that all of the men that surround Gavigan are involved in this cult somehow.
That is troubling. I'm just glad we got away.
We got away.
And now we're going to be climbing back into the, well, going back to him at some point.
I suppose there's a temptation to just leave, to go to Shanghai or Egypt. But
We can't.
he would always be there looking for us. I tell you, he's never going to leave me alone. He's, as much as an irritant you and Thaddeus are to him, I have a feeling that if he thinks I've betrayed him, he won't rest until I'm, well, if I'm lucky, I'll be dead.
that's nonsense. We ain't leaving until he's dead.
Yes, until we rescue, Habiba and Kafiri.
If Alan's contacts can help us, maybe they can get them out of the country.
Once we get them back, yes. And she'll look to Thaddeus. I know that you want to take on Zara after this, but... And this is going to sound crazy, and I want you to hear me out with this. If, once we kill Gavigan, I have to go back and tell her, I think we should utilize this. If I can get on their good side. If she opposes them, there's more of them. Maybe if we can at least give her the edge. Give her, I don't know, whatever she is doing. Maybe if she can combat what they are doing, it would be better than just trying to kill her.
I see what you're trying to say, but I think they're on the same level of plans. I think there would be, if we left them alone, they will just accomplish things that we don't want to happen to innocent people. I think the better idea would be to make a power vacuum for whoever's left over.
I think that
Natalia kind of pursed her lip. I
there are things
disagree.
plan.
It is not a good idea.
We left them alone.
Well, if she's the one that's poised to take over, and if Gavigan's not there, or vice versa, I don't know who is really in charge, but
For whoever's left over.
they both belong to the same group, and that same group wants to do unspeakable things to people. But if there is contention within that group, the removal of the two powerful ones will
She's the one that's
start some
supposed to take
infighting
over.
them,
Gavigan's
and
not
maybe they'll
there,
destroy
vice
themselves.
versa. I don't know who is really in charge.
There's definitely
They both belong
a
to the same
rift.
group.
Gavigan's men seem to hold her and her people in contempt.
But if there is contention within that group,
I don't think that
start some
siding with her is
maybe it'll
a
destroy
great
themselves.
long-term strategy, but
There's
it's possible that we could use her by letting her think that
Gavigan's men seem to hold her.
we're useful in some way.
Natalia just nods. I agree.
Siding
I'd rather not get someone else after us right away, Thaddeus.
possible
Plus,
that
we
use her
have to
as
go to Shanghai.
we're useful.
Let's make enemies after.
I think there already are enemies. They're just right now they're buying time to use us to do their dirty work. Afterwards, we're no longer useful.
Maybe. Oh, off topic. But something I wanted to ask Shelley. Have you had those dreams?
It's odd that you should mention dreams. I haven't, but you're gonna think I'm silly. Have you?
Yes. Yes, for weeks.
Well, it's probably not related. I don't know. I found a book at Gavigan's, and after my experience with Alice, I started to, you have to understand my state of mind. When I was there, anyway, I tried to reach out. I don't know if it had any effect or what effect it would have. It's all nonsense anyway. I'm sure nothing happened.
Alice, I started to,
What do you mean, reach out?
you have to understand my state of mind. When I was there,
Just, she seems really embarrassed.
if it had any effect or what
Just dream. I don't know, maybe trying to reach you in your dreams. The odd thing is it felt like I had just done something.
Natalia shakes her head. I did not get anything from you. But if you're attempting to reach out into whatever's there to try and communicate, something might try and communicate back, Shelley. Not me.
She just kind of nods. She shrugs. I feel silly even talking about it. But you've had nightmares again?
Quick question. Has Natalia had any lately?
kind of nods, shrugs. I feel silly even talking about it. But you've had nightmares again?
Natalia shakes her head. Not in the last few nights.
Not
But before that,
not in the
I had
last
quite a few.
2 or 3 nights. I mean, she
Mm.
had some fitful sleep a couple of
Anything
times, but she doesn't
different?
remember any specific dreams
What do you
or
mean
nightmares.
different? Just in my dreams?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, the ones I've been talking about. The the um the ones where I was frozen in bed and there's a man crawling on top of me, calling me little sister, and the ones where I was running through the holes as a child and turning very, very old in the mirror, and the dreams are this Philip, the one I was talking about, Alice's friend. He's for a very long time has been experiencing dreams too, and Thaddeus.
Oh, now you too?
Just one.
Ah, yes, but I don't know if it's connected like yours are. Mine was just a nightmare about a good friend.
I think it's him, based on that note that we found in Gavigan's desk and what they said back in New York about being blessed.
Makanga.
What?
You know, that's his name.
Who?
The man from New York. The man, I'm assuming the man in your dreams.
And she shakes her head. No, it is
Makanga.
based on
No,
everything. The notes from
the man from New York.
the doctor about Carlisle and what Elias was going through as well, and I am very Larkin as well. It is not a man from New York. No, it is. It is the one with many names. If it's all connected, I know it is him. I think he reached out to me when we were traveling here on the boat, saying I was getting closer.
Shelley shakes her head. Sorry, that must be terrible to dread sleep.
In no way, but she kind of pauses, shakes her head. Yes, it is. It is. But she likes to, Alan. I've had decent sleep lately.
He just kind of smiles at you, a little embarrassed, and he
Of
looks out the
course,
window, and you can see it's nighttime already,
wake me when you're
and
back.
it's raining. He says, well, not sure how much sleep I'll get tonight. He says, I should go and meet the lads. Try to set this up quick. I will. He says, you two make yourself comfortable, to Thaddeus and Shelley. He says, my
I'll be
home's
waiting.
your home. And he takes, he puts his coat on, and he starts to leave, and he comes over and kisses Natalia on the head, the top of the head, and just says, I'll be back. And he heads out. And I think that's actually a decent place to stop.